500 years later, now we are in 2019. 500 years ago, reformation happened in Europe. Do we still need reformation in the churches? I think so, especially even the Protestant churches nowadays. And what kinds of things do we need to reform nowadays, and what kinds of things we need to protest against the current churches? There are several major problems. After the reformations, there are too many unnecessary divisions, and there are churches divided just because of the ethnicity, and I think that's very unnecessary. Some people say they want to listen to sermons and sing songs in their mother language or first language. But I don't think that's very necessary, because what happened is that if you need that kinds of separation in terms of the language difficulty, what you can do is say, for example, you can have 10 o'clock in the morning in English, and then in the afternoon you can have church services in other languages. And that's one thing. And say if there is need of baptism, then the one who choose to be fully immersed and adult baptism, and then they do the baptism, and then the infant baptism with infusion, and they do it another time. That's not a big deal. Another thing is that the war. That reminds me of the separation happened in the Seventh-day Adventists. There are the Reformed Seventh-day Adventists. I think that's a very good reformation, because there are wars that are unnecessary. So if there are conscriptions, I'm sure individual can refuse, even though it breaks the law of the land, and we should realize that the law of the land is not the greatest, especially the conscription that leads to invasion into another country. So that's one thing. So one is the unnecessary separation because of ethnicity. The other one is the problem of war. And third, I can think about is the discrimination problem. So I make a video before, and that's something that should be addressed too, about ethnic discrimination, especially the white supremacy, so on. And I think that's really ridiculous, because if you think about it, the New Testament clearly criticize against ethnic discrimination, whether you think about Galatians 3:28 or the teaching of Jesus, that how you should treat other people the same. How it explains that the rain and sunlight fall on both the righteous and the wicked. So how can you justify discrimination based on ethnicity? And those are the things that needs to be think about. That the reformation in 2019. Another thing I should talk about is the anti-intellectual mentality in the church, especially by the charismatic and the Pentecostal. The unnecessary anti-reasoning. That's something that I'm strongly protesting against.